Speak English daily and see fast results. In a small, quiet town, there lived a young man named Ayan who had a simple dream but a heavy fear. His dream was to speak English confidently, but every time he tried, his mind froze. Words that he knew disappeared, sentences broke, and his confidence fell apart. He would watch others speak fluently and wonder, why not me? He believed he needed perfect grammar, a big vocabulary, and no mistakes. Because of this belief, he never truly started. One day, everything changed. Ayan met an old teacher at a park. The teacher noticed his hesitation and asked him a simple question. Do you speak your native language perfectly? Ayan smiled and said no. The teacher replied, then why are you waiting to be perfect in English before speaking? That sentence stayed in his mind like a spark. The teacher gave him one rule. Speak English every day, no matter how small. No matter how broken, no excuses. The first day was uncomfortable. Ayan stood in front of a mirror and said, hello, my name is Ayan. It felt strange. He repeated simple sentences again and again. He made mistakes, paused, forgot words, but he did not stop. The second day, he added more. Today I wake up early, I go to market, I buy fruits. His sentences were not perfect, but they were alive. Days turned into a week. Ayan started talking to himself while walking, while eating, even while thinking. Slowly, something changed. His mind stopped translating every word. Instead, ideas started forming directly in English. The fear that once controlled him began to lose its power. After 2 weeks, he tried speaking with a friend in English. He was nervous, but he did it. He made mistakes, but this time he did not feel ashamed. Instead, he felt proud. For the first time, he was communicating, not just thinking. By the end of 1 month, Ayan was not perfect. But he was different. He could express his thoughts. He could hold simple conversations. He could understand more. And most importantly, he was no longer afraid. One day, he met the same teacher again. With a smile, Ayan said in clear English, thank you for changing my life. The teacher laughed gently and said, I did not change your life. You did. You just started. Ayan realized something powerful. The secret was never talent. It was never perfection. It was daily practice. Small steps, repeated every day, created big results. And that is the truth many people ignore. You do not need to wait. You do not need to be perfect. You only need to start speaking today. Even if your sentences are broken, even if your words are simple, keep going. Because when you speak English daily, your mind adapts, your confidence grows, and your fear disappears. Fast results do not come from magic. They come from consistency. So imagine yourself like Ayan, standing in front of a mirror, saying your first sentence. It may feel small, but that small step is the beginning of something big. And one day, just like him, you will look back and realize that the person who was once afraid to speak is now speaking freely, confidently, and without thinking too much. All it takes is one decision: speak English daily. And watch your life slowly transform. Ayan's journey did not stop there. In fact, the real transformation began after he crossed that first barrier of fear. Once he realized that speaking daily was the key, he became curious. He started asking himself, what if I do a little more every day? Not more pressure, not more stress, just a little more effort with the same consistency. He created a simple routine: Every morning, he spoke for 5 minutes in front of the mirror. At first, he talked about simple things like his plans for the day, what he ate, or how he felt. Manned. In the afternoon, he listened to short English conversations and repeated them. At night, he spoke again, summarizing his day in English. It was not perfect, but it was powerful. Some days were harder than others. There were moments when he felt stuck again, when words did not come easily, when his sentences sounded wrong. On those days, the old fear tried to return. But this time, Ayan did something different. He did not stop. He remembered the teacher's advice: keep speaking, no matter what. Bans, even if it feels slow, even if it feels wrong. Keep going. Weeks passed, and something incredible started to happen. Ayan noticed that he was no longer searching for words as much as before. Laned. His mind began to respond faster. Simple conversations became natural. He could understand people better, and more importantly, he could respond without panic. One evening, he joined an online group where people practiced English together. At first, he only listened, but after a few days, he gathered courage and spoke. Langens. His voice shook slightly, but he spoke. To his surprise, no one laughed. No one judged him. Instead, they encouraged him. That moment changed his perspective completely. He realized that most people are not there to judge you. They are there to grow just like you. This gave him a new level of confidence. Now, he started speaking whenever he got a chance. Leans. He spoke with friends, with strangers online, even with himself while walking on the road. English was no longer a subject for him. It became a part of his life. Monde. After 2 months, Ayan met a situation that tested him. A guest from another city visited his workplace, and the only way to communicate was in English. Earlier, he would have avoided such a situation. But this time, he stepped forward. His sentences were still simple, sometimes imperfect, but he communicated clearly. Land. The guest understood him. They had a full conversation. When it ended, Ayan felt something he had never felt before. Not just happiness, but pride. Real pride. The kind that comes from effort, from consistency, from not giving up. That night, he sat quietly and thought about his journey, from someone who was afraid to say one sentence, Mang Tutu. Someone who could hold a conversation. The change was not sudden. It was built day by day, word by word, mistake by mistake. He understood a deep truth. Fluency is not about knowing everything. It is about using what you know again and again until it becomes natural. And this is where most people fail. They wait. They wait to learn more, to become perfect, to feel ready. But readiness never comes from waiting. It comes from doing. Ayan stopped waiting. He started doing. Months later, people around him began to notice. They asked him, "How did you improve so fast?" He smiled and gave the simplest answer: "I spoke every day. No expensive course. No complicated method. Just daily practice, patience, and courage." Now imagine yourself in Ayan's place. You wake up tomorrow and decide to speak just 5 minutes in English. The next day, you do it again. Then again. Slowly, your mind begins to change. Tamjwat fear starts to disappear. Confidence starts to grow. You do not need hours. You do not need perfection. You need consistency. Because when you speak English daily, and even for a few minutes, you are training your brain. You are building a habit. And habits, when repeated daily, create results faster than you expect. So, do not think too much. Do not wait for the perfect moment. Start with simple words. Start with broken sentences. Start today. Because the truth is simple and powerful, you know. The more you speak, the faster you improve. And the faster you improve, the more confident you become. Your journey can start right now. Just open your mouth and speak. Miayan's confidence kept growing, but what truly made his journey powerful was not just practice. It was consistency. There were days when he felt tired, Momdu days, when he had no motivation, and days when he thought, maybe I should skip today. But then he remembered how far he had come, Lamians, and he made a quiet promise to himself. No matter what happens, I will not break my daily speaking habit. One rainy evening, when the electricity was out and the house was dark, Ayan sat near the window. The sound of rain filled the silence. He picked up his phone, turned on a small recording, and started speaking in English. His voice was soft at first, but then it became stronger, pined. He spoke about the rain, about his day, about his dreams. In that moment, he realized something important. He did not need a perfect environment. He only needed the willingness to continue. Bammed. As days turned into months, Ayan added new habits. He started thinking in English instead of translating. When he saw something, he described it in English in his mind. Planned. When he felt something, he tried to express it in simple English words. This small shift made a big difference. His brain was no longer switching between languages again and again. Lemmed. It started flowing naturally. He also began to enjoy the process. Earlier, English was a pressure, a burden, something that made him nervous. But now it became a game. He challenged himself daily. Can I speak for 10 minutes today? Can I learn 5 new words and use them? Can I tell a story in English? These small challenges made learning exciting. One day, Ayan decided to record a full video of himself speaking English. At first, he hesitated. He remembered how he used to feel embarrassed. But then he reminded himself, I am not the same person anymore. He recorded the video and watched it. Yes, there were mistakes. Yes, his accent was not perfect. But he was speaking clearly, confidently, and without fear. That video became a turning point. He started sharing short videos regularly. At first, only a few people watched. Then slowly, more people noticed. Some people appreciated him. Some people criticized him. But this time, criticism did not break him. Instead, it made him stronger. He focused only on one thing, improving every day. What made Ayan different was not his talent. It was his mindset. He accepted mistakes as part of growth. He did not run from them, he used them. After a few more months, something surprising happened. Ayan met a group of people who were struggling with English just like he once did. They asked him for help. He started guiding them, sharing his simple method: speak daily, do not wait for perfection, and never stop. As he taught others, he learned even more. His own English became sharper, clearer, more natural. Teaching gave him confidence on a whole new level. One evening, he stood in front of a small group and spoke in English for several minutes without stopping. There was no fear, no hesitation, no overthinking. Just flow. Just expression. When he finished, there was silence for a moment, and then people clapped. Not because he was perfect, but because he was real. Because his journey was real. And that night, Ayan looked at himself and smiled. He remembered the boy who could not say one sentence without fear, and now he was speaking freely. He understood something deeply. Success in speaking English is not a big jump. It is a series of small steps taken daily. Every sentence you speak builds your confidence. Every mistake you make improves your skill. Every day you practice brings you closer to fluency. So if you are watching this and thinking, can I really do this? The answer is yes. Not because it is easy, but because it is simple. Start small, speak daily, stay consistent. You may not see big results in one day, but give it a week, give it a month, and you will feel the change, Tumjum. Your fear will reduce. Your confidence will rise. Your words will flow. Just like Ayan, your journey will not be perfect, but it will be powerful. No. And one day, without even realizing it, you will be speaking English naturally, confidently, and without thinking too much. All because you made one simple decision, to speak English daily and never stop. Ayan's journey continued, but now it was no longer just about learning English. It had become a part of who he was. Monks. The boy who once avoided speaking had now become someone who looked for opportunities to speak. Every situation became a chance to practice. Every conversation became a lesson. But life, as always, tested him again. One day, Ayan was invited to speak in front of a larger audience at a local event. When he heard this, his heart started beating fast. Old memories came back, the fear, the doubt, the voice inside saying, "What if you fail?" For a moment, he felt like that same person again. That night, he could not sleep. He kept thinking about the stage, the people, the possibility of making mistakes. But then he remembered his journey. Mond. He remembered the first sentence. He spoke in front of a mirror. He remembered the rainy night when he practiced in the dark. He remembered every small step that brought him here. Meaned. He asked himself one question. Did I come this far just to stop now? The answer was clear. The next day, Ayan stood on the stage. His hands were slightly shaking. Limda's breath was a little heavy. But he did not step back. He looked at the audience and began with a simple sentence. Hello, I am Ayan, and I want to share my story with you. Dambia. At first, his voice was slow, but as he continued, something changed. He stopped thinking about mistakes. He stopped worrying about perfection. He focused only on sharing his story. Minute by minute, his confidence grew. His words became smoother. His voice became stronger. And by the end, he was not just speaking, he was connecting. When he finished, the audience responded with warm applause. But more important than that, many people came to him afterward and said, "Your story gave us hope." Mengand. That was the moment Ayan truly understood the power of his journey. It was never just about English. It was about courage. It was about consistency. It was about believing in progress, not perfection. From that day on, Ayan made a new mission for himself. He wanted to help others break their fear, just like he did. Baned. He started creating content, sharing tips, telling his story again and again, so that others could see what was possible. He would always repeat the same simple message. You do not need to be perfect to start. You need to start to become better. People often asked him, "How long does it take to become fluent?" He would smile and say, "It starts from the day you speak without stopping." Because fluency is not a destination. It is a habit. And habits are built daily. Lied. So if you are still waiting for the right time, understand this. The right time does not come. You create it. You create it the moment you decide to speak your first sentence. Plaindens. Even if it is broken. Even if it is simple. Do not compare your beginning with someone else's success. Everyone's journey is different. Focus on your daily progress. Even if you speak for 5 minutes today, it matters. Even if you make 10 mistakes, it matters. Even if you feel nervous, it still matters. Lend. Because each small effort is building something inside you that cannot be seen immediately, but will be felt very soon. One day you will wake up and realize that you are understanding more, speaking more, and fearing less. And that day will not be magic. It will be the result of your daily effort, just like Ayan. So take a deep breath, believe in yourself, and start now. Speak something, anything today, because your transformation is waiting on the other side of daily practice. And remember this simple truth that changed Ion's life forever. Yon. Speak English daily, and the results will come faster than you think. As time passed, Ion's life began to change in ways he never expected. Mondie. It was not just his English that improved, it was his confidence, his thinking, and even the way he saw the world. Speaking daily had trained his mind to act instead of hesitate. Mungda. One morning, while walking through the busy streets, he overheard two people speaking English. Before, he would have quietly walked away, feeling uncomfortable. But this time, something inside him was different. He slowed down, listened carefully, and, to his surprise, he understood most of what they were saying. A small smile appeared on his face. It was a quiet victory, but a powerful one. Later that day, he decided to test himself in a new way. Mauled. He went to a place where he knew he would have to speak English. His heart still felt a little nervous, but now that nervousness was no longer fear, it was excitement. And when the moment came, he spoke clearly, not perfectly but confidently, and once again, the conversation went smoothly. That night, Ion sat alone and reflected on everything. He realized that the biggest change was not in his vocabulary or grammar, it was in his mindset. He no longer asked, "What if I make a mistake?" Instead, he asked, "What can I learn from this?" This shift made him unstoppable. He started setting bigger challenges for himself. One day, he decided to speak only English for the entire day. At first, it felt difficult. He struggled to find words, paused often, and sometimes laughed at his own mistakes. But he kept going. By the end of the day, he felt exhausted but proud. It was another step forward. Ion also discovered the power of listening. He began listening to English conversations, stories, and simple talks every day. But he did not just listen. He repeated what he heard. He copied the tone, the rhythm, the way sentences were formed. Slowly, his speaking became more natural, more fluent, more real. Weeks later, something amazing happened. He noticed that he was no longer translating in his mind. When someone spoke to him in English, he understood directly. When he replied, the words came naturally. It felt effortless. Jand. This was the moment he had been waiting for without even realizing it. Fluency had quietly entered his life. But even then, Aeon did not stop. He knew that growth never ends. He continued his daily habit, because he understood that consistency is not just for beginners, it is for everyone who wants to keep improving. People around him now saw him differently. They saw confidence in his voice, clarity in his thoughts, and courage in his actions. But what they did not see was the journey behind it. The daily effort, the small steps, the moments of doubt that he chose to overcome. And that is where the real lesson lies. Success in English is not about big actions. It is about small actions repeated daily. You do not need hours of study. You do not need perfect grammar. You do not need to know everything. You just need to speak, even if it is slow, even if it is broken, even if it feels uncomfortable. Because every time you speak, you are training your brain, building your confidence, and moving one step closer to fluency. Ion's story is not special because of who he is. It is powerful because of what he did. And what he did, you can do too. So do not wait for tomorrow. Do not wait for confidence. Confidence comes after you start. not before. Start today. Speak a few sentences. Make mistakes. Learn. Repeat. And one day, just like Ayan, Memdia, you will look back and realize that the person who once struggled to speak is now speaking freely, naturally, and without fear, all because you chose to practice daily. So remember this, and carry it with you every day. Speak English daily, and watch how fast your life begins to change. Ayan's journey reached a point where speaking English was no longer something he tried to do. It became something he simply did, naturally, without force. But what made his story even more powerful was what happened next. One afternoon, a young boy approached him with hesitation and said, "Bye, ma'am. I want to speak English like you, but I am too scared." Those words felt familiar. It was like looking at his past self. Ayan smiled gently and asked him, "Do you speak every day?" The boy shook his head and said, "No, I wait until I feel ready." Ayan paused for a moment and then said something that changed the boy's thinking. Instantly, plans. You will never feel ready until you start. From that day, Ayan began guiding not just one person, but many. He told them the same simple truth. Again and again, speaking is the only way to improve speaking. There is no shortcut, no secret formula, no magic trick. He started organizing small practice sessions where people would come together and speak simple English. No pressure, no judgment, just practice. At first, everyone was nervous. There were long pauses, broken sentences, and awkward silence. But Ayan encouraged them to continue. Slowly, those sessions became lively. People started laughing, sharing stories, asking questions. The same people who were once afraid to speak were now trying, improving, and growing together. One day, during a section, Ayan asked everyone to talk about their biggest fear in English. Many struggled. Some stopped in the middle, but they tried. After everyone finished, Ayan said, "Look at this moment. You just spoke about your fears in English. That is not weakness, that is courage." Those words stayed with them. Ayan realized something important. When people remove the fear of judgment, they unlock their true potential. And the only way to remove that fear is by practicing again and again until it loses its power. But months passed and the group grew stronger. Some members, who could not speak at all in the beginning, were now having full conversations. Some even started helping others, just like Ayan did. This created a cycle of growth. One evening, Ayan stood quietly and watched everyone speaking confidently. He felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Not because he was the best speaker, but because he helped others believe in themselves. That night, he thought about the real meaning of success. It was not just about reaching a goal. It was about lifting others while you grow. And it all started with one simple habit: speaking daily. So if you are still watching, still thinking, still waiting, understand this clearly: you do not need to be confident to start. You do not need to be perfect to begin. You only need to take the first step. Speak today. Speak tomorrow. Speak every day. At first, it will feel uncomfortable. Then it will feel normal. And one day, it will feel natural. That is the journey, you know? And remember, every fluent speaker you see today was once a beginner who decided not to quit, just like Ayan. So take that decision now. Start small, stay consistent, and trust the process. Jangzia. Because when you speak English daily, you are not just learning a language, you are building a new version of yourself. A version that is confident, fearless, and ready to express. And one day someone will come to you and say, "I want to speak English like you." And you will smile, just like Ayan, and say, then start today, and never stop. Mumdiayan's story did not end with confidence or fluency. It evolved into something deeper, something more meaningful. He began to understand that language is not just about words, Lamsit is about connection. One day, while helping a beginner practice English, he noticed something interesting. The learner was not struggling with grammar or vocabulary. Biyun. The real problem was hesitation. Every person tried to speak. They stopped before even starting, afraid of making mistakes. Mayayan gently said, do not think before you speak. Speak, and then think about how to improve. That simple advice changed everything for that learner, in that moment. And it reminded Ayan of his own early days. He realized that most people fail not because English is hard, but because they overthink it. They try to build perfect sentences in their mind before speaking. But real communication does not work like that. It flows, it adjusts, it grows through practice. So he started teaching a new idea to everyone he met. Speak first. Improve later. Mend. He encouraged them to make mistakes on purpose, to speak without fear, to accept that imperfection is part of learning. Slowly, people started changing. Lambs. They stopped fearing mistakes and started focusing on expression. One evening, Ayan was walking alone and thinking about his journey. He remembered the boy who could not say even one sentence. Mond. He remembered the frustration, the confusion, the doubt, and then he looked at himself now, someone who could speak freely, guide others, and inspire change. He smiled and whispered to himself, it all started with one sentence a day. That was the real secret. Not talent, not expensive courses, not complicated rules, just daily speaking. Bonda. As he continued his journey, Ayan noticed something powerful happening around him. People from his group were improving faster than expected. Some were speaking in public. Some were getting jobs where English was required. Some were even teaching others. The ripple effect had begun. Mendites. What started as one person's struggle had become a movement of small daily efforts leading to big results. Ayan often told them, do not measure your progress, measure it in courage. If you spoke today when you were afraid, that is progress. Because real improvement is not always visible immediately. Sometimes, it grows silently in your mind, building confidence little by little until one day you notice. You are no longer afraid, and that is the moment everything changes.